Since the 1960s, James Bond has raced across the silver screen. While voicing clever one-liners, 007 has protected England since his first appearance in Casino Royale to his most recent one in Skyfall, with the help of unthinkable gadgets and the use of unforgettable Bond cars. Fans all around the world have watched their favorite MI6 agent fight his way through the impossible, battle legendary villains, and woo women from around the globe. Today's guest will talk about why James Bond is her favorite franchise and how James Bond has changed since the 1960s. The Humanities Mass Communications Department at Norwalk Community College presents The New Directors, the show that introduces you to television's future writers, directors, and personalities. And now join our host, Peter Dillenschneider, to meet the next new director.
Hello. Our guest today is an NCC student in the film and TV production course and is an expert on James Bond. She's seen every movie and knows all the actors and actresses. She knows how the stunts were performed, which cars are in what movies, and the function of each James Bond gadget. We would like you to meet today's guest, Miranda Erickson.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Great to have you. Miranda, we know that you love James Bond, but can you tell us why? What about it is so appealing to you?
Well, when I was in 5th grade, my brother first introduced me to James Bond. I really loved the stories. All of the characters, such as M, or Money, Penny, or Q, really became characters I was intrigued by. They were characters that I fell in love with and that stayed throughout each movie. James Bond as a character himself was always suave and intelligent and witty and always knew what he was doing. I have some examples that I would like to show you how James Bond has also changed since the 1960s. Let's watch for a minute. In the 1960s, James Bond was originally kind of the only MI6 agent. Everyone knew him everyone loved him. His fighting skills were always just mainly hand-to-hand. There wasn't anything chase-related until probably about the mid-70s or in the 80s. This scene right here is from Russia with Love, where he is battling Grant on a train, which is all, as you can see, hand-to-hand. And this is in Casino Royale. This was mainly a chase scene that James Bond has had to do. The fights have escalated since the 1960s to be more extreme. As you can see, this is on a construction site, and they're battling on scaffolding. And it gets more intense as the scene goes on. Women have also played a different role since the 1960s. Everyone who was a woman in the beginning of the movie was very expendable. Characters in this movie, Goldfinger, and in movies like Live and Let Die and Solitaire, and Ursula Andress were always just women who didn't really have a lot of power in the movie. In 1995, when Judi Dench came in to play M, which is James Bond's superior, Bond didn't like M, but as the movies went on, he grew to see her as an authority figure and had respect for her as time went on. James Bond also, the character himself never really changed. He was always kind of the same character with the same attitude. Like this, he's driving through a tank in Russia, just driving around the street because he can, and he's trying to go after and trying to finish his mission. So himself as a character, as wanting to finish the mission and do it right and do everything he can to get there, has been something that hasn't changed since the first movie in Casino Royale in the 1960s.
Oh, pretty inspiring stuff. Could you tell us why you decided to take the TV production course?
Well, TV and film has always been a passion of mine, and I couldn't really do it when I was in high school. So when I got to college and I had the opportunity to actually do something that I wanted to do, I leapt at the opportunity to do it because it was something that I've always wanted to do, and I wanted to further my knowledge and stuff and things that I loved.
What were some of the more useful things that you learned in the TV production course?
One of the most useful things that I've learned were doing paper edits. They saved a lot of time and a lot of headaches. Things that you shot originally may not have turned out the way you wanted to, but you don't always remember them. You do one shot, but you don't remember if it was good or not. So you do paper edits before you actually do edits on Avid to remember what you want and what you don't want.
Could you tell us a bit now about the projects that you did for the TV1 class, the student study, the teacup sequence, the Winter in New England project, and the Orange project?
Well, let's watch for a second while I talk about them. The student study sequence I did at the beginning of the course. This was when I first really learned how to use the camera, learning long shots, close-ups, and how to cut on the action. This project also showed me the importance of storyboarding, making a shot list and a bird's eye view of the camera positions, and making a field shot sheet while you go. All of those things were important to actually have the finished product to be something that I wanted to have originally, that I had planned for in the storyboard, which is also where paper edits come in, when the importance of that helped me actually get to somewhere that I wanted to be. The teacup sequence took a lot longer to film, but it was more fun. It allowed me to decide which of my own shots I wanted to meet the requirements. In this project, it was very important to have everything flow together and to not cross the 180 line. I had to make sure everything that I filmed was in the right spot, or else it wouldn't flow in the way I wanted. As you can see right here, like all of the shots are kind of on one side, and then it cuts from close up to close up. I had to do each shot over and over. The Winter in New England project was probably the most difficult to film, and in the previous sequences, one of the major skills to have was to apply the rule of thirds in each shot. But in this project, I had to film lines of grace, emotional lines, geometric shapes, and converging lines, all while applying the rule of thirds. It was challenging, but it allowed for a lot more creativity as I went on. The Orange project was a lot of fun. I had to come up with my own story, then make a bird's eye view of the camera, positions, storyboard, make a shot list, and a field shot sheet like the other ones. While filming, it was very extensive but necessary. To tell the story through pictures and to have the skill to do a close-up, medium shot, and a long shot, it just made that easier. I was able to film what I wanted while taking something as simple as an orange and trying to make it interesting for people to actually want to watch.
It sounds like you put quite a lot of work into all of these, but I know one of these you think is your best. Could you tell us why could you tell us about it while we watch a sample of it with the music you selected?
My best project was probably the Winter in New England project. As I said before, the Winter in New England project was a challenge, but it allowed for a lot more creativity. I drove around and then had to walk through 3 feet of snow just to get the shot that I wanted. My feet were practically frozen by the time I was finished. But doing all that driving and the walking made me realize how much of an opportunity I really had to make this project my own. There were converging lines everywhere, stunning lines of grace, and while I was on my way home, I drove past a nature trail that was near my house. And on the trail there were a cluster of trees right in front, and I just so happened to see it at a perfect angle where the trees refracted the sunlight in such a way that it made a cross star perfect for my video, as you can see right here.
You mentioned the variety of things you learned in this course. What was the most interesting and important skill that you learned, and how will you put it to use?
The most interesting and important skill I probably learned was having the patience and the common sense to do each shot more than once, because not everything comes out perfect the first time. Like if you do a close-up, but it's kind of out of focus because you didn't focus it right the first time, like you have to do that more than once. You can't just like shoot and go. So I'll put that to use in the future with other film projects that I do to make sure, even if it's a hassle, to do the shots more than once and to have everything be the way I want it.
Well, it sounds like you learned quite a great deal. Today we got to meet someone who has made it her hobby to know everything and anything about James Bond. As a TV production student, she hopes to put what she has learned to use further in the TV and film field in order to create movies like James Bond in the future. Thank you very much for being here today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
This has been The New Directors with your host, Peter Dillenschneider, directed by Joseph DeAndrea. I'm your announcer, Tony Livingston. The New Directors is a Norwalk Community College student production.